whenever I see his name, you guys know how much I like talking about him because I think so highly of him as a fighter and a person. And he's a popular subject on this channel. So I want to talk about Angelo Leo for a second because a lot of you guys ask me what's going to happen. There's a lot of talk about like what's next for him. And my boy Dog, he asked a great question. He says, "Why ain't Leo getting more eyes? It seems like people overlook him." And that's a great question, man. Look, what it comes down to is this, and I'm not throwing nobody under the bus. I'm just stating the facts. So he was with Mayweather Promotions, right, for the beginning of his career. He became a world champion, and then he was put on the shelf for 2.5 years. Not that long after the fight, and then. He didn't fight for almost 3 years, and then he signed with Pro Box. Then he fought 4 times in 9 months, became champion again, and then ever since he won that belt, he's been a purse bid fighter. Pro Box and Gary Jonas and them, they not really invest in the way they probably should, and it's really screwed up the momentum of his career. And I say that to say this, to answer your question, and say this: the news regarding him, I knew about this 2 days ago, but it's finally been reported to the public in the boxing world. Angelo Leo has mandatory due against Aleem. And the purse bid for that fight is going to be 8 days from now, February the 17th, right? And now, I've talked to people in the boxing world about, what they believe will happen. Multiple, not just one person, but multiple people whose name I will not, mention. But and they've all told me that they don't think it's going to go so well, and that there might not even be a bid for that fight, because I'm not delusional, right? I'm not delusional. Angelo is not a big name. Riceley's not a big name, so it's very possible if there is a bid, it'll be a low bid. If there's no bids at all, they could actually just strip Angelo Leo, because then the boxing game would just say, you know what? Well, there's not enough commercial value for a purse bid to even come in. And then they just move on to the next guy. But I don't know, man. I'm very confident that's not going to happen. I'm actually like exceptionally confident that's not going to happen. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens with the purse bid. We'll have to wait and see. But look, that's a good fight. Aleem is not a tough, not an easy fight for anybody. He's like 24-1. The only guy that's beat him was Sam Goodman, and that wasn't even in a definitive fashion. So you can really look at Aleem as an undefeated fighter. But nonetheless, the purse bid is scheduled for February 17th. So in 8 days from now, in 8 days' time, on the 17th, we'll see what happens. I always say in boxing, if you want to know what your promoters really, really think about you, let the fight go to purse bid, and you will get all the answers that you need. And we're gonna get our answers here, and I'm intrigued. I have my own thoughts about this. I'm gonna keep those thoughts to myself, because I have reason to believe that things be okay. Things gonna be a-okay. But yeah, he gets overlooked because he don't talk crazy, and none of the big promoters have ever fully been behind him. To answer your question, none of the big promoters have ever fully been behind him. But when he's got the opportunity, he's performed exceptionally with the lone blemish on his career being against Stephen Fulton, right? And that really shouldn't be held against him, because number one, that was 5 years ago, right? Number two, Stephen Fulton's a great fighter. There's no shame in losing to a great fighter if you step to the plate and you fight him. And number three, even in defeat, Angelo hurt Stephen Fulton in the 4th round of that fight, and they threw the 3rd most punches in the history of any super bantamweight world championship fight. So even in defeat, he still did something pretty cool. It wasn't like it wasn't like he like Fulton clearly won, but all these narratives, people say that Angelo lost 12-0. Go back and watch the fight. He didn't lose 12-0. I thought he won 3 or 4 rounds. And he's a much different fighter than he was back then. So it's not even fair to judge him, honestly. But I'll leave it at that. Let me go ahead and get to the super chat here from my main man, Matt Borgeson. He says, I'm going to get to that in a second, Matt. Give me 1 second. He says, Aleem might school Leo. I mean, we'll see, man. They fight the fights for a reason. I like Aleem. Obviously, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. But I'll tell you this. You know, people always come up to me and they say, "Oh, well, you know, why don't Angelo fight this guy?" Bro, Rafael Espinoza, since he won the belt, excluding the Robesi rematch, excluding Robesi, he ain't fought no one as good as Raif Aleem. He ain't fought no one as good as Tomoe Kameda. You know, that's really a fight that he should be taking, honestly, because Raif Aleem's a top ranked fighter. But guess what? Mayweather Promotions ain't gonna do that. So who gives him the shot other than one of the realest champions in boxing, Angelo Leo? I like Leo. I just hope he's not satisfied. Lately, he's just shining his belts and putting them on the shelf. If he wants to get his name out there, he needs to be active, BT. I agree with you. I don't think he's content. I know he's not content. It's not even I think. I know he's not content. It just what it comes down to is it's not as simple as that. I wish it was. I was just saying it for Boots and Virgil. I mean, Boots and Virgil have more. They have more backing than Angelo has. So I'm gonna talk a little differently because Virgil has Golden Boy behind him. Boots has Eddie behind him. Angelo don't got that. So it's different. But I mean, you tell me how if a guy fights 4 times in 9 months and then he wins a title and then all of a sudden he can't get fights, what do you think changed? It's the promoter. The promoter doesn't want to invest. So it's that simple. You won't say it, but Glover will. We know the truth. Yeah, shout out to Chris Glover. You know, shout out to him. I had a chance to speak to him recently. Great guy, knows his boxing. But yeah, there's always 2 sides to every story, talkers. Always remember that. Always remember that. Mayweather Promotions messes up young fighters' career. Leo, Hitchens, and now Kamamoan. Yeah, I mean they've done a lot of that. They've like you mentioned Hitchens and Leo. Look, both guys. They are with Mayweather Promotions, and once they branched off, they were able to have very fruitful careers. Kamal Moen, I don't want to say they're ruining Kamal Moen just yet because really and truthfully, I felt like Kamal Moen has to take some responsibility. You know, he did have that fight that was scheduled for the Danny Garcia card. He missed it by 15 pounds, so it's not all on just Mayweather Promotions yet. But Mayweather Promotions, as it exists now, is not the same Mayweather Promotions that Angelo and Hitchens had. They actually had dates back then. Like back when Angelo and Hitchens were on Mayweather Promotions used to always do fights at Sam's Town and things like that. And, you know, they were doing a lot of shows at PBC when PBC was having a lot of dates. So it's different time. You know, I don't like that logic. I don't like that logic. But why would I see Aleem as an undefeated fighter? He lost before my eyes. Because he was the B-side fighter and he lost a split decision that was very close that could have went either way in the other guy's hometown. So I'm not saying you have to look at him as an undefeated fighter, but I'm just saying, like, if you fight a guy in his hometown and you fight him tooth and nail and it's a 50-50 fight and the other guy got the decision because he was in his hometown, you know, that's not the same as, like, you know, getting knocked out cold or, you know, getting outclassed. That's why I'm saying that. You don't have to do anything. Nobody has to do anything, especially in America. We all have freedom. Turkey is sitting on Angelo, always brings a fight. Hopefully they consider him versus Espinosa on the Canelo Mexico versus the World Undercard. I would love that. Like, we're all for that. But unfortunately, like, and I'm trying to explain this to you guys. You know, I'm really trying to explain this to you guys. He doesn't have the luxury of getting to pick and choose. Like Espinosa does. Espinosa has Top Rank behind him. Shushu does. Shushu has Top Rank behind him. Even Figueroa to a degree, like he's got PBC, you know, at least somewhat behind him, right? And Angelo does not have the luxury. And I would say this, like, people need to start putting some pressure on Espinosa, Zanford, Fernando Beltran. If you're the number 1 guy, fight the number 2 guy, right? Because on Ring Magazine, he's the number 1 guy and Angel's number 2. So it's a legacy fight. Shout out to my guy with PYP Boxing out there in Texas. He says, the True School is very humble. I worked with him in San Antonio. Very cool, down to earth, one of the best. Thank you, champ. Hope all is well. God bless. Keep up all the great work, and hopefully we'll cross paths soon. I love Texas. Let me see. What was that super chat at? Okay. Let me acknowledge the super chat. My man says, do you think it's crazy for Earl to fight Tim Tszyu right now? I don't think it's crazy for Earl to fight Tim Tszyu right now. Tim Tszyu's not winning fights like that. Like, he hasn't really won at the top level. He's not, he's got some wear and tear on him, right? Earl hasn't been in the ring for a while. So I just feel like, honestly, I like that fight a lot. And I'll get to it here in a second. I just want to really talk about this Angelo Leo stuff because all you guys asked me about Angelo. So I'm gonna just acknowledge what you guys asking me and get the Angelo stuff out of the way so I can get to the other stuff. But what I want to say about that is, if they really want to make that card and that event all it can be, they need to do Spence versus Tszyu, and then they need to make Brian Norman Jr. versus Teofimo Lopez as the co-main event. And that whole card should be called Crossroads, because those are two Crossroads fights. If you get Spence and Tszyu as the main event and you get Tio and Norman as the co-main event, then you got a Crossroads extravaganza. And truth be told, I love Crossroads fights. I love these fights where these guys, where fighters' careers are on the line, because really that's more pressure filled than even a title fight in some ways. Because, like, yeah, a title fight is pressure filled, cool, but now you're fighting for your career. You're fighting for your reputation. So yeah, I don't think it's too much. Would Zuffa be a good move for Leo if getting fights are still a struggle? You never rule anything out. If they come to the table with a good deal, I wouldn't rule it out. It all depends. So, sorry, BT. I think Leo is the second weakest champion behind Figueroa. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I look forward to helping them prove you wrong, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. Wait, why the fuck is Leo versus Aleem going to purse? But I thought the date and venue were set. No, the date and venue were never set. It's a long story. The whole thing going on with his career, it's a long story. I'm not going to tell all of it right now because it ain't the time for that. But there will come a time, and the truth will be revealed, and y'all gonna figure out, like, y'all gonna see. I just not right now ain't the time to talk about it. But right now, that's where we're at. Purse bid is gonna be soon, and we'll see how it ends up. We'll see how it ends up. I'm very optimistic. One thing about me, man, you ain't gonna get me down about nothing, about anything. I'm always glass half full. So if the whole boxing game tells me it's gonna go this way, listen. Plenty of smart box people, they're not all right. Do I think Figueroa would take a Leo fight? No, I don't. Absolutely not. In fact, not only do I think he won't take the fight, I know he won't take the fight. I'm like 300% sure he wouldn't take an Angelo Leo fight as his first option. It's actually the last thing on his mind. I know that. It's not something and I'm not here talking shit, and I'm not gonna get into it, but I know he won't take it. Good fighter, respect to him, but I know he ain't taking it. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that.